welcome to another episode of Meyer Makes. Today we are going to be revisiting one of my favorite projects to make and a really great way to use up extra eggshells that you may have after a big baking project. We are going to be making some beeswax eggshell candles. Now, I know we've done this before on our YouTube channel, but over the last few years, I've learned a lot when it comes to making these candles, and I want to share some of the tips that I've learned when making these. The supplies you need to make beeswax eggshell candles are really simple. The first thing that you're going to need, and this is my first tip, is beeswax. Now, I get my beeswax in kind of brick shapes, so my beeswax looks a little well loved because I just kind of melt or I take pieces off as I need. If you want to make it a bit easier to melt your beeswax, you can go ahead and take that beeswax if you get it kind of in a block like I do, and you can grate it so it's in smaller pieces when it's melting. You can also buy beeswax pellets, which I've used those before, and those melt super quickly. When I'm melting my beeswax, I'm using a double boiler method where I'm putting a container over a pot of warm water, and I'm allowing my beeswax to melt very slowly. With beeswax, it's going to melt kind of slow, but it's also going to set up really fast. So once you have it melted, you want to get it in those eggshells right away. The next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need some wicks, and here's my next tip. So these are some wicks that I actually have around, and they look just like this. And my wicks that I currently have right now do not have a little tab on the bottom. So I actually have to kind of stand these up using some sticks, which I'll show you in a little bit, when I'm putting them in my eggshell. If you want to make things really easy, get some wicks that have the metal tab on the bottom, and they just sit really well inside the eggshells. I have a whole bunch of these, so I need to use these up. Another tip is save some dowel rods that are small like this, especially if you get some houseplants. These work great in holding your wick into place while your beeswax is cooling. All right, so let's talk about the last thing you're going to need, and it's your eggshells. So here are my eggshells. They're already prepared. What I like to do is I like to prepare my eggshells one day and actually pour the candles the next day because you want your eggs to be completely dry. Some things that I've learned over the years is to make sure that you use really good thick eggshells. So look at your eggs, make sure they're really good strong eggs. If your flock's getting the right feed, those eggshells should be perfect. I actually really like to use our duck eggs when it comes to making the candles because those shells are a little bit thicker. Another tip that I've learned over the years is make sure you get that membrane out of there. So not only do you want to make sure the eggshells are super dry before you put the beeswax in, but you want to try to peel that membrane out. And what I do is I'll actually rinse my eggs off, let them dry, and then that membrane just kind of peels out of the inside of there. And I found that if I tried to leave the membrane, maybe I was trying to cut a corner or do something really quick, the beeswax actually came right out of my eggshells, or I got really lumpy looking candles. So dry eggshells and try to get as much of that membrane out of there as you can. I left a little bit on the top of some of these, but that's okay. The main part where the beeswax is going to touch the eggshell is super clean. And speaking of cleaning our eggs, I do like to rinse my eggs with a solution of a little bit of vinegar and water. You can also use bleach just to really give those eggs a good clean. While my beeswax is melting, I went ahead and I prepared my wicks. I like to wrap them around the stick that I'm using here to hold it into place. You don't have to do that, especially if you use one that maybe has a more solid bottom on them. But these types of wicks that I have here, they kind of bend really easy around whatever I want to help stabilize them while I'm pouring my beeswax. When everything is completely hardened, I will go back and I will cut the wick so it's a little bit closer to the candle, but right now I'm leaving everything long while our candles are solidifying. All right, and after my wax is all melted, I'm going to go ahead and pour it into my eggshells, and I like to fill my eggshells about 2/3 of the way full. All right, and here's what one of our candles look like, all hardened here, and it looks absolutely great. Here's what the bottom looks like. These are so fun to have around. They're great for gifts. And it's a wonderful way to use up eggshells. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know in the comments below. I've also left some instructions and tips for you in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching and happy creating!